every single day on The View is a contest in stupidity. Truly, it's an amazingly competitive match between some of the dumbest people on earth. No one really notices on a given day that Whoopi Goldberg is a very dumb person who says very dumb things because everybody else is so dumb on The View that she's constantly outshone. She seems like the most sane person on The View, which is kind of an amazing statement. Trying to suss out which person on The View is least intelligent is an exercise in quantum mechanics.
What happens when an unstoppable force of logic slams straight into a wall of dramatic stares and hollow outrage? You get Ben Shapiro turning Whoopi Goldberg's fiery opinion into an ice-cold meltdown. Live and in full view of the nation, the internet didn't just buzz, it exploded. Her blank expressions met his relentless logic like paper hitting a bulldozer. This wasn't a chat. It was a full-blown detonation of courtroom fury, smashing into midday theatrics. And let's be clear, Ben didn't just take the spotlight, he obliterated it. Whoopi was left so mentally frazzled, she might need a week of silence just to remember what hit her. And yes, it's only just beginning.
Whoopi Goldberg, she of the genius sort of sage presence on The View.
Thanks.
She's like, I'm not saying that maybe white people need to get beaten up for police reform to happen, but maybe white people need to get beaten up for police reform to happen.
But how many times do we need to see white people also get beaten before anybody will do anything?
Okay, so first of all, this is unbelievably stupid.
Yep.
We've seen many, many cases of police brutality against white people.
So picture the scene. Sunny daytime television bathed in pastel fluff. A jittery table of hosts locked in a rhythm of claps every time someone uttered a trendy buzzword. And there she was, Whoopi Goldberg, seated like the Empress of Outrage, tossing out hot takes like confetti at a royal parade. The stage was set, the echo chamber was humming with applause, and everything felt smugly safe. Until the air snapped cold. Suddenly, in walked Ben Shapiro, a human fireball of logic with no patience for fluff. What came next wasn't a debate, it was a detonation, and the unraveling began right there.
Well, folks, as you know, I love one show on TV more than any show on TV. The View.
Gary!
I've had a lifelong ambition to actually be a guest on The View. They'll never have me on, of course, because it would go horribly for them. But today, we're going to go through some of the cringiest moments from The View, a repository of nearly all human stupidity, total IQ 7.
Imagine The View, a snug little bubble where feelings dress up as facts, emotional applause doubles as truth, and brunch table wisdom floats around like sacred law. But off-screen, Ben Shapiro was circling like a hawk with a mission. This wasn't just any guest. This was a rapid-fire intellect who launches stats like missiles and speaks with the speed of a caffeine-charged squirrel. And no, he didn't need a seat at that table. He was dismantling their entire argument list from afar with the precision of a surgeon slicing through delusion. Every flawed claim, he caught it, crushed it, and left no wiggle room.
She's trying to make an anti-Trump argument. She's like, I can say anything I want. And she's like, I'm going to say something super racist. They're all like, yeah. Well, apparently her hair was not her only bad decision that day.
The Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
Ethnicity.
No, it's about
a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
No!
That's what it's about.
Dropping Ben Shapiro onto The View was like tossing a Rubik's Cube into a kindergarten finger painting class. Chaotic, confusing, and absolutely unmatched. Whoopi stormed in, armed with recycled slogans and emotionally charged speeches, trying to win a war with vibes instead of verifiable facts. But then Ben entered, calm, cold, and armed with history so sharp it could cut through steel, while they were still clapping for their own opening lines. He could have recited the Constitution backwards and still made more sense. It wasn't just uncomfortable, it was an all-out intellectual collision with no survivors.
On who you talk to. Whoopi, always available to sign in.
Cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
To both compare Israel and the United States to terrorist organizations and also compare terrorist organizations to apparently not terrorist organizations. Like, Hamas is not a terrorist organization? Oh, man. It is amazing because Whoopi is sort of seen on this show as sort of the wise old sage. And I have to say, you need better sages.
This wasn't a debate, it was a philosophical ambush in broad daylight. Whoopi launched into a chaotic rant that sounded like a blender full of metaphors and sci-fi reruns, hurling sentence spaghetti at the wall of reality. None of it stuck. She insisted, "I feel like something's wrong, so clearly something is wrong," as if pure emotion could rewrite logic itself. Her co-hosts nodded along like backup dancers at a karaoke meltdown, but then Ben blinked. Twice. Cutting through the fog with a chilling "actually," and from that moment on, it was pure devastation. He carved through confusion like a blindfolded brain surgeon, hurling receipts like a caffeinated librarian flinging overdue notices. Whoopi froze, eyes wild, logic spinning, like a hamster caught in a lightning storm.
So Whoopi Goldberg was on that great repository of all human intelligence, The View, and she was explaining that people who are not using masks are going to make things more dangerous for themselves. She's talking about how the mask will protect you from the flu. Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Well, no, you know.
Well, you did have that.
I did have a cough, and when you
Had a
did
little
not show
cold.
up, Brian goes, "Thanks, Whoopi's out."
Well, I assume that is because when you have little ones,
Yeah.
you will always have things that you travel with. So as people will tell you, yeah, take off your mask. Don't worry about it. We're not going to check anymore. Just know the flu
It's still
will fly in.
Yeah.
Okay, because the flu flew in and got me.
Okay, so I'm just going to point out here that the entire narrative on the mask was about COVID. And now they're you should probably wear a mask because if you take off the mask, the flu will fly in.
To her credit, Whoopi tried to strike back, raising her voice as if sheer volume could drown out reason. When that flopped, she leaned on her go-to phrase. "Well, I just think," as if thinking it somehow made it true. But Ben didn't blink. He unleashed an avalanche of airtight facts, polished rebuttals, and economic theories that hit like a freight train. The soul of the argument evaporated into thin air. Meanwhile, Joy Behar stared blankly like someone just handed her a Rubik's Cube in hieroglyphics. The audience giggled, but not from amusement. It was nervous laughter, the kind you hear when reality crashes the party. Whoopi clung to her emotional life raft while Ben delivered a cold, hard rainstorm of facts with pinpoint accuracy. And the sting? It wasn't just that Ben made sense, it was that he came fully loaded and absolutely unstoppable.
We saw Whoopi Goldberg over the weekend suggest that Nikki Haley is not a new generation. How can you say she's a new generation? Whoopi Goldberg is 67 years old. Nikki Haley is 51 years old. Donald Trump is nearing 80. Joe Biden is 80. So yeah, technically speaking, she is in fact a new generation. But here's Whoopi Goldberg speaking for the youth of America.
Now that's what they're saying. Suddenly, everybody said, "Oh yeah, we should reflect all of us." Okay.
Then it hit, the deadliest moment of all. Silence. That unbearable, breath-stealing pause where Whoopi froze mid-thought, her brain stalling like an old computer, stuck buffering. She scrambled for an escape route. It was like watching dial-up internet crash in the middle of a live stream. Meanwhile, Ben sat still, grinning like a cat that already knocked the vase off the shelf and dared anyone to stop him. And when that silence finally snapped, it was deafening. The internet detonated. Twitter exploded with memes, roasting Whoopi's logic-free meltdown and declaring that maybe, just maybe, feelings don't get to boss around facts. Screenshots flooded every feed, and suddenly her past gaffes resurfaced like skeletons kicked out of a closet. But Whoopi had one last crutch. The mainstream media, they rushed to the rescue with a tidal wave of think pieces screeching why Whoopi's emotional truth still matters, but no amount of spin could erase what the world had just witnessed.
This was taken as anti-Semitism. She didn't say the Jews weren't specifically targeted, by the way. She didn't actually say an anti-Semitic thing the way that Whoopi Goldberg did. She just said that when people are inhumane to each other, bad things happen. For this great crime, she was not suspended. She was fired outright from The Mandalorian, losing presumably hundreds of thousands of dollars in salary because she was one of the main characters and they were considering a spinoff of The Mandalorian with Gina. They fired Gina, so we hired her, right? We have a new movie that's coming out with Gina Carano in the next couple of months, which I'm excited to tell you about. Okay, but they fired her outright, did Disney. Whoopi Goldberg says something far worse in every respect than Gina Carano ever said about the Holocaust. And she's going to get a 2-week suspension.
Meanwhile, Ben was riding a logic high, cool as ice, sipping his cold brew like a philosopher judging a middle school debate contest. While the panel floated on clouds of emotion, he dropped fact after fact like courtroom evidence, stamped and sealed. But the real hit wasn't even the argument. It was the crushing silence that followed. A hollow, awkward pause so deep, even the stage lights looked confused. The crowd didn't know whether to clap, cry, or reboot their moral compass. The poor applause sign guy, he gave up and walked out. That silence split the room. On one side, emotional rambling. On the other, piercing clarity. Whoopi tried to save face with a clumsy cleanup act, mumbling, "Well, I felt like what I said was valid because it felt valid at the time. That's like returning a toaster because your toast felt disrespected." Ben didn't flinch. He casually dropped Aristotle's name and followed it with a digital footnote nobody asked for. He wasn't just making a point. He was a walking, talking encyclopedia with Wi-Fi speed and zero mercy. And this time, it landed like thunder.
Never look for consistency with the left. It is all just a game of power. In any case, Goldberg apparently is livid and feels humiliated over the suspension. She feels ABC executives mishandled this. She followed their playbook. She went on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and then apologized again on The View the next day, the source told the Post. Her ego has been hurt. She's telling people she's going to quit. Suspension from The View is like getting suspended from Bravo. The bar is very low. Prior to her suspension, sources that spoke with Page Six said that employees and executives, including insiders at Disney, were furious over her remarks and the fact she had not been disciplined yet.
The internet crowned Ben the undisputed champion not because he was perfect, but because Whoopi showed up swinging sparkles and feelings while he brought a tactical nuke of logic. Sure, some say Shapiro's delivery is smug or robotic, like he's racing a buzzer on a game show, but when your opponent opens with, "I feel like this is true," suddenly he sounds like Socrates making a comeback tour. This wasn't a debate, it was a total demolition. Whoopi's argument crumpled like wet tissue in a hurricane. Her co-host sat there stunned. One finally stammered, "Let's just agree to disagree," which is TV speak for, "Please stop, you're wrecking the segment." The fallout? Shapiro's clip soared on YouTube, surpassing The View's weekly viewership in hours. Not hard, but still. The show limped into the next segment. Something about astrology, naturally. But Ben wasn't finished. He followed up with a podcast breakdown like a sports coach reviewing a defeat in slow motion. He flagged every hole, cited every flaw, and somewhere, Whoopi was probably burning sage and praying Oprah would send help.
Whoopi Goldberg, yesterday, she did her full apologies. You'll remember that 2 days ago, Whoopi Goldberg went on The View and she suggested that the Holocaust was not about race. And this tied into a broader ideology of the left, which suggests that Jews are white people, and therefore the Holocaust was actually white people attacking white people, which is a thing she actually said on air. Then she went on Stephen Colbert, where she quasi-apologized and then doubled down and suggested once again that the Holocaust was not about racism because it was white people attacking other white people. She issued a written statement. The written statement came out before the Colbert appearance, but probably was written after she had taped for Colbert already. In any case, she came out on the air yesterday, and then she did her fulsome apology.
This wasn't just a debate. It was a live, televised reckoning of what happens when emotional applause meets cold, unrelenting truth. When your worldview runs on vibes instead of verified facts, all it takes is one sharp mind to rip the illusion to shreds. That's exactly why this moment exploded online. It wasn't just about Ben being right. It was the spectacle of someone walking into a logic battlefield carrying finger puppets and expecting to win. And then came the silence, so thick it could suck the sound out of a rocket launch. Whoopi, once the queen of woke soundbites, ran out of gas in front of a national audience. 5 full seconds of blinking, buffering, and reaching for a thought that never came. Ben sat unfazed, smug as ever, like a cat perched on a broken vase, daring anyone to speak. The camera zoomed in and it was chaos behind the eyes of the co-hosts. Joy Behar frozen in shock, Sarah Haynes scanning for exits, and Sunny Hostin realizing she was backing the wrong opinion in public. Then came Ben's final strike. No applause needed, no dramatic flair, just pure, lethal clarity. The View didn't just lose the argument. It aged a decade in 10 minutes. This wasn't just a takedown, it was a masterclass in logic, soaked in sarcasm and sealed with humiliation.
Listen, take him seriously and take him literally.
I don't think that we have to. I think it would be remiss of us to not say Joe Biden knows how to do this.
Yes.
He knows how to do this. He's quite good at this. And you know, you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing?
Whoopi's track record isn't just shaky, it's a full-blown roller coaster of controversies with no brakes and sparks flying off the rails. And we're not talking about harmless slip-ups. We're talking headline-dominating, gasp-inducing disasters that make people shout, "Did she seriously just say that?" From jaw-dropping historical gaffes to tone-deaf takes that made audiences cringe, Whoopi's opinions have become legendary. For all the wrong reasons. Remember when she said the Holocaust wasn't about race? That wasn't a stumble. It was a free fall through reality. Or when she claimed black people can't be racist the same way others can? That one lit up the internet like a Christmas tree on fire. Whoopi has become the queen of jaw-droppers, delivered with the energy of a tornado trapped in a teacup. At this point, her name trends more for televised chaos than anything else. Even her fans wince every time she starts a sentence, like watching someone juggle lit matches next to a gas leak. And then there's Ben Shapiro. Say what you want. Yes, he's smug. Yes, his tone can be icy, but when he locks into debate mode, he's not trolling. He's unleashing a precision-guided missile of facts. And this time, he hit the target dead on. Ben didn't argue. He dissected, exposed, and annihilated. Calm, clinical, and loaded with receipts, he left Whoopi blinking in silence while Twitter threw a digital victory parade. That frozen moment? It wasn't just awkward. It was a national surrender on live TV. Her co-hosts looked stunned, as if the teleprompter just vanished. And Ben's final mic drop line? It crushed what little was left of Whoopi's argument, leaving her rebuttal floating aimlessly in the void. Completely absent, just like her logic.